Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. My name is Justin Fensterman, and it's Fantasy Sports Daily here, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com. Give me a follow at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports, and at Fensty, Fensty, in our Discord at FantasyGuru.com. I'm normally hanging out in the DFS NBA and the NBA betting Discords. Got a big slate to talk about here. Not really big when it comes to games, but big when it comes to impactful, because we're going to win our Wednesday nights. This is our free stream that we have to offer here from the site, our extension, reaching out their arms to you to bring in more of the Elite Mafia, a great, very active Discord that we have, and we always have, whether it's the NBA, the NHL. We got football still rocking and rolling on the site. Jeff Vance still doing his good job of making sure all that content is out and ready for you, no matter what round of the playoffs. Make sure you catch Jeff Vance and Ray Flowers on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, that's channel 87, 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. This show, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. I take on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, your Midweek Madness edition. It's time to talk a little bit of basketball. As you know by now, we're going to have football still very present in these shows, but Monday will be a big football day along with baseball. Our draft guide is out now via Ray Flowers. He'll talk more about that when he returns tomorrow. But looking at last night's action and what happened and what didn't when it came to our betting, I always go over kind of what went on when it came to the betting. From the Minnesota side of it last night, we had Julius Randle not be able to rebound against Utah. That's a shoulder shrug right there. I don't know how that happens. And we had Jaden McDaniels come through for us. And if they're going to keep his prop low at that 4.5 mark, we're going to continue to bet that. He's been averaging a lot of potential rebounds lately in the double figures. His rebound rate has been good. I talk a lot about that when I write him up when it comes to DFS plays. And then I saw that he had been rebounding a little bit better. And I thought facing Utah in a nice fast-paced matchup, it would work out. It did. And then unfortunately, when it came to our other rebound parlay that we had with LeBron James getting at least 5 rebounds, Brandon Ingram needing 6, went the wrong way there. Should have went with LeBron James 6, which was my original intention. And then I thought about it some more because Ingram was actually averaging more potential rebounds. Here's what happened where I got caught up. And sometimes when you're too into the numbers, like you could get when you're a content creator, you get caught up in all of the trends, and logic tends to leave your brain. One of the things that I like the most about LeBron James, besides the fact that his props are still relatively low, the non-scoring props, is that LeBron James is a guy who has a lot of muscle, even at 40 plus at this point. And Denver doesn't have a lot of muscle, even with Aaron Gordon in there. And what I should have done when the original intent is, normally when you see my alt line rebound parlays, it's pretty much I'm looking at 2 players. I can't decide if I want to go with the single bet or not. I'm right on the line. So you know what? I'm liking both these guys tonight. Let's just take their rebounds down by 1 or 2, and then let's see what happens right there. Kind of felt that way with Julius Randle. Wasn't exactly sure. It was toggling between 6.5 and 7.5. I like Julius Randle a lot better when that rebound prop is at 6.5 and 7.5. With LeBron James, to me, it shouldn't have made a difference because we had seen him grabbing 8+ rebounds. We had seen him time and time again prove himself. And with Denver, no Valanciunas, no Jokic. I should have read into that. Part of my fear was that DeAndre Ayton was going to grab every rebound under the sun. And I thought that maybe the Lakers would get out ahead early and often and then maybe bench LeBron. But that's, again, diving too deep into it. The fact of the matter is that the Denver Nuggets are ripe when it comes to rebounding. Do they play at a very fast pace? No, they actually play at one of the slowest paces in the league. But without their front court members and their low block players, they're going to be very vulnerable on the glass. And that should have really stuck out to me, which it did, which is why I was even on LeBron to begin with. Unfortunately, didn't really work out that way. And then meanwhile, Brandon Ingram, from a rebounding standpoint, who had the better matchup, that actually slowed him down just a little bit. I thought it was perfect for him. No Barrett, Pirtle, Murray Boyles, who had been rebounding nicely, was out of this game, but it just didn't work out. So a 1-2 night. As long as we hit one, I'm fine with that. I don't like to lose. I don't like having losing nights, but one to me, better than none. I just don't like getting swept. I like doing the sweeping, not getting swept. So that's what happened when it came to our betting last night. We were close, but just no cigar. Julius Randle just was out to lunch when it came to the rebounding. It was a lot of Rudy Gobert, and it was a lot of even Anthony Edwards, too. So that was something that was very frustrating. Coming on the show today is going to be Armando Marsal once again, but this time, instead of talking football with him, going to talk a little basketball because both of us are on the NBA content for Wednesday. It is Watch Along Wednesday, although I will say this, I will tonight be in and out of Watch Along Wednesday. Everything's fine, but still got to help out a little bit upstairs, the fam a little bit more tonight. So with that, I'll be in and out for Watch Along Wednesday for this evening. So it'll be a little bit patchier when it comes to some of my live reactions. And maybe you don't know what Watch Along Wednesday is. Watch Along Wednesday is every Wednesday, unless there's 1 or 2 games. If we have a full slate of games or close to it, I hang out with you guys in Discord. Why do I do that? Because I want us all learning how this game works. I want us all reacting together. And most importantly, I want us all watching these games together. We had a great turnout last week, and it's just pretty much reacting. And that's it. Yeah, we're following plays, but we're just talking about teams and some of the teams that you all root for. And it's great to get your perspective because I don't watch the same team every single night. I just don't, because I don't learn anything from watching a same team every night, even if it's a Thunder, let's just say. You learn a lot by watching the Thunder on what a great team and how a great team should operate. But for me, I need to see to believe beyond looking at these stats. Like last night, if I didn't look at anything when it came to the trends and the stats to LeBron James, and I just went with what I saw, I would have put that bet in no problem, the rebound bet. Because with me, LeBron over 6.5 rebounds, I've seen Denver get crushed in the post. And there's really, unless they make a deal, nothing they can really do about it. I thought Holmes was going to be something, but he's not a big enough body to keep bigger players out of the lane. Peyton Watson, also not a big enough body to do so too. So they're going to start getting creamed in there. We saw it happen with the Utah Jazz when their front court started getting hurt early with Walker Kessler, and now they've gone way down when it comes to the rebounding numbers compared to the rest of the league. So Watch Along Wednesday tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, when the slate locks. I will be in there. And again, maybe a little patchy at first, but we'll make sure that we're tracking all the plays. And I also get my ideas for my Fensty's Basketball Diaries weekly podcast that's exclusive to Fantasy Guru subscribers. And that's why you got to sign up for that MVP package, because you get everything we have to offer with the exception of football and baseball. Those are their own packages. But everything else that we have, including racing, including MMA, including college sports, NHL, you get it all with the MVP plan. You want pricing? I'll give it to you right now. For 1 month, it's $60. For a year, it's $200. Try it out for a month. Try out multiple sports. See if you like it. See what you latch on to. And what's good about that, too, soon enough, in the next few months, it'll be the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, the Belmont once again. So you get involved with that. Slappy White does a great job, as do the rest of our analysts. So to get involved in basketball the rest of the way, and by the way, you're probably thinking, well, there's only less than 3 months left in the regular season. Season doesn't end when the regular season ends. We keep the betting and the DFS content rolling until we don't have games anymore, whether we're building in Discord with 1 or 2 games at the end, or writing up our content articles for the playoffs, or writing up betting analysis. Jeff Mann's in the betting squad now, as he always does after football. He joins up, and now he's putting in his alt-line parlays. So you get everything from single-player prop bets to alt-line parlays. And with some of your friends that you make in our Discord, they're writing their own bets too, and you can decide if you want to tail them or not. But really, there's a multitude of bets. There's a multitude of strategy that goes into this. And that's why, for me, when it comes to all this, sign up for 1 month. Check it out. See what we have to offer. Great active Discord. We are there for you. So let's talk a little bit about pace. I didn't really get to do a lot of this yesterday, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the teams that are slower paced, and there are a few correlations there. Sometimes it's not always a strong defense that works at a slower pace. So looking at what you see here, and then I'll go into tonight's slate and I'll kind of find ways to intertwine the pace conversation. So over the last 10 games, the slowest moving offenses. Brooklyn, notorious. They've been slow all year. Same with Denver. Same with Boston. Same with Houston. This has been all year. The Clippers, slow all year. Charlotte started a little bit on the quicker side. Now they're on the slower side. You got to be careful when attacking the Charlotte Hornets because the Hornets play pretty good defense. Another team like Phoenix that you don't expect it, but they just do. And they're going to slow you down too because that's what they do. Phoenix, part of this list. Toronto plays solid defense. Even missing players, they play very good defense. So that's why you got to be careful attacking some of these guys because when it comes to the top 10 rated defensively, Detroit is number one. But I'll say this about Detroit. Detroit over, and this is why you look at pace over the last 10 games instead of just for the entire season, because Detroit's been playing more up-tempo, and that, despite them being a good defense, that'll be very beneficial when it comes to attacking them in DFS, and they are on the slate tonight. In fact, that Pelicans-Pistons game is one that I'm going to want a ton of exposure to. The big injury of note in that game is Zion Williamson is questionable, so we don't know if he's going to play. But let's say he does sit. That makes a lot of mid-court players on this team more interesting. Trey Murphy, I wasn't that into before the Zion news. Now I'm a little bit more into it. While Detroit plays good defense, the fact that teams can get them to run, that'll give them benefits when it comes to transition offense. Because if you have a fast-paced back and forth, there are going to be possessions where the defense isn't set up, and that's where Detroit's going to get burnt a little bit. So that's why I go over things like top 10 defensively rated and then also top 10 pace, or rather bottom 10 pace, to see if there's any kind of correlation there. Clearly, you'd think the best defensive team in the league would operate at a little bit of a slower pace, but that's not always the case. We saw it last year with the Thunder. The Thunder were operating at a fast pace, and they started slow this year. Now they've kind of picked it up a little bit more. Detroit and OKC are your top two. San Antonio, you don't want to sleep on them. They play very good defense, very solid perimeter players that are very agile. They work their way through screens. Even De'Aaron Fox has bought in just a little bit too. Castle's an excellent defender. He's been great. Vassell helps out a little bit in that regard. Keldon Johnson helps out. They've got a lot of Champagny. They've got a lot of good mid-court players that could defend the perimeter. And that's what's dangerous about them besides Victor Wembanyama. Other strong defenses, Dallas. I don't know how Dallas is doing it because Dallas doesn't have a lot of size. That's the big thing. Anthony Davis is out, and we don't even know if he's going to be on the team much longer. He could be traded at the deadline possibly. Daniel Gafford has been in and out. No Derek Lively. So despite not having a big presence when it comes to size in the post, they've been doing a good job, and a lot of that credit goes to P.J. Washington. P.J. Washington has done a good job of holding down the perimeter, and he's had his own injury issues throughout the season, but you got to give P.J. Washington some credit with this Dallas team. But it shocks me that they're this highly rated at this point. I mentioned Toronto. Toronto is very good at getting to spots. You see it when you watch this team. Even their reserves, they all get to their spots. They don't allow easy layups. And this was a team that used to run a lot. And when you run a lot and it's the overwhelming majority of your game, you're going to get caught up a decent amount too. And Toronto has been doing an excellent job. And the reason why I think they've been doing such an excellent job, and they've had Jakob Poeltl out for a little bit at this point, Brandon Ingram has, when we forget how effective Brandon Ingram could be when he's not hurt. And I think back to that Pelicans team a few years ago, one that I thought the year Dallas went to the final 2 years ago, I thought was a very dangerous team coming out of the All-Star break. And then Brandon Ingram got hurt and missed like most of the final month and a half or whatever it was. And as soon as he comes back, Zion Williamson, because the team started to fall a little bit, when he came back, Zion Williamson got hurt in the playing game, and that just destroyed them. Those guys stay healthy. I think, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that year Dallas went to the finals against Boston. I think that Pelicans team back then takes out that Dallas team. Hard-fought series, an amazing series we'd still be. I was praying for that series. I thought it was going to be fun as hell, but we never got it because the Pelicans got hurt. They were dangerous, and they were playing very good defense. Adam, good to see you, and good to see everybody in the Discord as always. It's always good. Good shout out right there. Other teams that have been good on the defensive end that we got to be mindful of. Philadelphia, although Philadelphia is easier to attack, obviously, when Embiid is off the floor, Andre Drummond doesn't move. So those centers, Joel Embiid is more mobile than Andre Drummond. Drummond kind of just stands there. So anyone with a mid-range game will be able to get the best of him. Atlanta, I'm kind of shocked there because I've seen Atlanta give up drives, but they've been good on the defensive rating. But they're a team that runs at a very fast pace. So while we might not want full attack when they're at full strength, we can remember those value plays and even looking at certain props because Atlanta plays very quickly. And they've been surrendering a decent amount of boards, and Kristaps Porzingis is dealing with another ailment again. It seems like the last few years he's gotten some very strange viruses that have taken him out of action, and taking that size out is huge because it can't all be Onyeka Okongwu when it comes to the Hawks. Portland was an easy team to attack early in the year, but things changed. They slowed down their approach. Jeremy Grant has proven that he can still defend. They've got agile players, and they've had guys out all year. Drew Holiday is a fantastic defender, but he was out for a decent amount of the first half of the year. Now he's back in. That perimeter is completely shut down. They've done a good job. Klingon is a rebound machine, but Jeremy Grant, with the defense he plays to stop drivers, it's excellent. That's one of the things that Jeremy Grant can still do. And when you put Jeremy Grant on a team where he doesn't need to be the number one or even number two guy, he's very effective, and he can hit shots. That's the big thing with him. Charlotte, I've mentioned them, solid defensive front, and they'll be able to rotate very nicely. And they've got underrated size, too, between Big Moose and Kalkbrenner. And then they got Miles Bridges, who takes every shot under the sun. Brandon Miller has actually been playing very well. So the big question is going into tonight here, because we've got our high totals being the Cleveland-Charlotte game and the Atlanta-Memphis game. I want a big piece of the Charlotte Hornets tonight with the pace-up spot. Remember, there's no Darius Garland, so that's going to make things a little bit easier for LaMelo Ball. Now, let's talk about LaMelo Ball, for instance. Always good for a soundbite, but here's the interesting thing. Charlotte has been in a lot of double-digit games, and there have been times where Ball has taken Charlotte out of the game, and they're not afraid to take him out after that. His scoring has been all over the place, but with no Darius Garland, I think he does have some GPP appeal tonight. When it comes to LaMelo Ball, we know the assists should also be there for him, playing at a little bit more of an up-tempo pace. The one thing is his shooting has just been very up and down, and he hasn't been grabbing rebounds consistently, something we were able to rely on very much. Now, all of a sudden, it's not the same with LaMelo Ball, and he takes a lot of low percentage shots. So because he holds on to the ball for so long, the opportunity for assists goes down for him. He still obviously dishes them, but let's look, he's averaging over 7.5 per game, and now we're seeing him get, okay, he had the 11 a few days ago, about a week ago, but then surrounding that 11, 6, 2, 5, 5, 8, 7, 2. I mean, it's really all over the place. And while I'm hanging here with you, might as well see what he's done when it comes to his potentials over the last little bit here, because with LaMelo Ball, we should be seeing potentials in the teens. Instead, over his last 5 games, we've been seeing him surround about 10 to 11 potential assists per game. Now, normally for most players, I would say that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. In fact, we can look at the highest potential assists over that span over the last 5 games, and That's at 20 with actually it's a 1-game sample size, but you've got Cade Cunningham, you got James Harden up there at 16 and 15, and then you have him down at 10. He should be averaging more than that. He should be. The problem with LaMelo Ball, he holds on to the ball and tries to go ISO, that by the time he's passing off, the teammate that he passes to has about a 3-second window to make a decision and to plan himself and get a nice shot up. Oftentimes that's not going to happen and his potentials are down. So while I'm talking to you about this, I feel like I'm talking myself out of it. Definitely for cash, but for GPPs, LaMelo Ball, to me, I think is still in play with the pace up spot that's presenting itself this evening. Now, other players that we can look at from this matchup, I feel like we can look at someone like an Evan Mobley from the Cleveland side. Now, again, pace down at this point here, and Mobley isn't cheap, but I think Mobley in this matchup, especially when he's matched up against Miles Bridges, I think he will be able to take advantage just a little bit. Now, he hasn't had a very strong return over his last couple of games. And his rebounding, another guy, has been all over the place. But you know the shot volume is going to be there. He's been blocking a lot of shots too. The peripherals have been there for him. So while the rebounding has been down, he's been finding other ways to kind of make do. So that's why he's another GPP play. At 9K on DK, I'm just wondering at that point if you just go all in and go after a Jalen Johnson in a lightning speed matchup against Memphis. In fact, let's talk about that matchup because to me, while Cleveland and Charlotte are interesting, you've got obvious pace-up spots with Charlotte, with Boston against Indiana. We've seen this matchup a few times. I'll tell you how to attack it soon. Atlanta, Memphis is going to be a very speedy pace, and same with Detroit and New Orleans. With Atlanta, Memphis, another player that I'm going to be looking at tonight is Dyson Daniels. Now, Dyson Daniels should be able to do a lot in 30 to 35 minutes this evening going up against Ja Morant. We've seen Dyson Daniels start to rebound a little bit better, and while Memphis doesn't give up the most rebounds, I feel like he'll be able to get rebounds, long rebounds that we've seen. He doesn't just race down the court. He kind of waits. And if you look at over the last few weeks, Memphis has actually given up the 7th most rebounds per game to point guards. So that's something to think about. And Dyson Daniels is always someone that I'm looking at for guard rebounding. And that's a player that I'm interested. What about Ja Morant on the other side? Let's talk about Ja Morant because while we know that there's a lot of static between Morant and the Grizzlies, we can't deny the fact that over the last few games that we've seen him, he's been giving us a very strong return. And tonight against Atlanta, he at least has pace on his side. Now, he's been dealing with a calf injury. The big thing is, will he get 30 minutes? Does he need 30 minutes in order to be a strong volume producer? Against Orlando, in 28 minutes, we saw what he could do a few days ago. So tonight, I think Ja Morant is in play. I've been very nervous, but the price has gone down. You going to give me Ja Morant at 8K plus, I'm out. You're going to give me him at 7.5 plus, okay. That I can live with a little bit more. 7 plus, I can live with that. He's still going to have plenty of time with the ball. When he's out there, he takes a lot of shots. He should take 10 plus. Atlanta gives up a decent amount of assists, and if you look before the injury, he's recorded double-digit assists in 3 of his last 5 games. It's hard for me to say no to Ja Morant tonight. Now, the Hawks have been giving up some rebounding. They've also been giving up a decent amount of assists to opposing guards. That's the big takeaway right there for me, is the fact that the Hawks have been very vulnerable. So I will put some investment and some stock into Ja Morant. I will say this about Ja Morant, though. Assuming he's going to play 28 to 30 minutes, the ceiling isn't a 7 to 8x ceiling to me tonight. The ceiling is going to be more, because remember, Atlanta plays good defense. We can't forget about that. Orlando hasn't been playing as effective of defense as we're used to seeing. But when it comes to Atlanta with Ja Morant, we're going to have to lower our expectations a bit, but I still think he can get you a 5x maybe the 6X return. We're hoping for 28 to 30 minutes is his second game back. So that play comes with a bit of a disclaimer tonight. Other plays we can look at now. Do I ever look at, you probably are wondering for those that follow my write-ups, I rarely ever write up Jaren Jackson. And that's because for the last few years, the volatility has been flat out annoying. He's not a big rebounder. Yes, he blocks shots, but he's, other than that, very scoring dependent. And when he's not hitting shots, that's a problem. Even when he's hitting shots, like the other night, he shot 47% from the field. That's good, but he didn't do anything else. That's the problem. And being in that 7.5 to 8K range, I need some multi-category production potential. We don't have that. I'm sorry, but he's not, there's no guarantee that he's going to be blocking shots. Maybe he'll block one or two, and that's great. But if he's not grabbing any rebounds against Atlanta, that's very problematic. And he's going to have trouble scoring 30 against Atlanta. I'll tell you that much. He'd be better off if Ja was off the floor. They're going to make sure that they take out Jaren Jackson because Ja Morant will take lower percentage shots than Jaren Jackson. So they're going to make sure they prioritize Jaren Jackson. I'm almost hoping that Santi Aldama, who's questionable, plays tonight to give Memphis a little bit of a boost in their front court so it's not a blowout and it remains a close game. Looking at, by the way, the spreads for the evening, the spreads we have to worry about, Indiana-Boston's a double-digit spread. Brooklyn and the Knicks, although I will say this, the Knicks have played horrible basketball lately. They have been bad. Now, the Nets aren't a good team, but we've seen the Knicks get worked. Their defense actually over the last 10 games has been like bottom 3. It's been bad. They're not stopping anyone. And so while it's very easy to say, yeah, the Knicks should win by double figures, nothing's a lock at this point. Now, it's the Nets, so you're not really looking at a lot of Nets. But if you were ever fearing playing Michael Porter, don't fear playing Michael Porter tonight. Outside of Michael Porter, it's very difficult for me. I would love to go after a guy like Igor Demon going up against Brunson tonight because the Knicks do let up guard scoring. You just don't know how many shots he's going to take. And is it worth it at that point? Maybe it is. Right now, I'm not thinking that's the case. You can look at some of their size options too. You can look at maybe a Noah Clowney, Nick Claxton, another guy, low ceiling, but we've seen the Knicks be so much worse on the defensive end that maybe some of these Brooklyn guys do have a chance to be able to give us a nice strong output when it comes to their potential. So that's really where I stand when it comes to this. The Atlanta-Memphis game is a 1.5 point spread right now. And I'm hoping that Aldama plays because that'll ensure to me that it'll be closer. Because, look, we've seen Memphis step up at times, but at the same time, Atlanta has played very good defense, and we don't want this game on a 5-game slate getting out of control. I don't want any blowouts on a 5-game slate. So that's really what we're looking at tonight when it comes to our 5 games this evening. Remember, some of the late games, they are going to be their own slate. Both FanDuel and DraftKings on the same page when it comes to the 5-gamer heading into tonight. So let's welcome in my partner in crime when it comes to the basketball content at fantasyguru.com for this evening in particular. And on the cheat sheet, straight from Miami himself, it's Armando Marsal back on Fantasy Sports Daily. What's going on, Armando?
What's up, Fensty? Happy to be here to talk some hoops with you, man.
Yeah, man. We always, and just so everybody knows, Armando and I at some point during the day when we're on the content together, I'm on the write-up normally, Armando on the cheat sheet. We kind of try to compare cores, not originally. Now, this conversation is before where we're getting everything going, although I've already started crunching a little bit. So we're going to be more in line with what we're thinking here. But Armando, let's talk about some big spend-ups tonight here because we do have a couple of bigger spreads when it comes to these games here. Looking at the guard side of it, you know what? Before we even talk about that, let's back up. Let's talk lineup building strategies. I've talked about my process a ton on this show. When it comes to DFS NBA, what are some of the keys and some of your routine when you're building your lineups?
Yeah, the first thing I love looking through all the pricing, right, to see if I find any discrepancies, and news, right? I think so. Looking at pricing, then comparing it to what news, what we can expect, where we can find value, and then matchups. I think that's very important. And the one advice, Fancy, that I will definitely give here is every single slate is different, right? Like every single slate is going to play out differently. The size of the slate, the games on the slate. For instance, you mentioned, we have a 5-game slate. I believe there's 2 games with double-digit spreads. Or not 3. Hold up, I think it's 3. Yes, we got 3 out of the 5 games with double-digit spreads tonight, right? So like there's 3 games with potential blowout, But so every game is, every slate is different. But my initial thing is I look at pricing, I look at matchups, and I find where I can find the pricing discrepancy and the players that are going to play a lot of minutes. So it's really the same thing in my same routine each and every day throughout the NBA season when I'm playing DFS.
One of those games that's a double-digit spread is the Nets-Knicks game. And normally I wouldn't even give any thought to Nets players, but the Knicks have been playing so bad, man. Their defense has been absolutely jacked up. It hasn't looked good. The team is not working together right now. And I'm not saying that the Nets are going to go out and all of a sudden kick their ass. But at the same time, can the Nets keep this a game? Because the Knicks have been just defending horribly. And so I got to ask you there, whether it's tonight or any other night, outside of maybe Michael Porter, how often do you mess with Nets players? Because I feel like the last few years, they've been top 3 most confusing team to figure out for DFS.
There's certainly a lot of volatility here. So for me, it's very slate dependent and, matchup. It's always matchup and slate driven when it comes to the Nets and kind of what their lineup is. For instance, tonight, this is probably a game, I'm going to be lower, invested in than most people, if at all invested in really. So for me, this evening, it's Porter, and you can make a case for Clowney, I guess, but again, I'm not overly interested in this specific slate, this specific matchup. This is a game that I don't see it being fast paced. There's a lot of other high paced spots here that I like a little bit more, more appealing matchups. So even Porter for me is not someone I'm prioritizing this evening, despite that high ceiling.
I'm with you there. I'll say this: if Day'Ron Sharpe is out for Brooklyn, I like Clowney a lot better here. And that's the problem. You can look at both the Nets and the Knicks, Armando. It's really hard to get excited for just about any player because the Knicks are priced very appropriately. And I find myself, when it comes to writing them up or players with confidence, the only 2 players that I write up with confidence when they're at full strength are Josh Hart and Miles McBride, if I think there's a chance the Knicks can be up. But again, going back to the issue, since the Cup, the Knicks defense has been bad, so it's harder to now put in and with confidence, even on a shorter slate. McBride, Brunson, Towns, they're priced very appropriately. And for the Nets, I want to rely on someone like an Igor Demon tonight because the Knicks give up a lot of scoring to guards. But if you look at Demon, his shooting is all over the place. Sometimes he's completely out of the mix. And I can't do that because of the few games that we have. Our audience is going to be flocking to guys like Demon because of the price. And I don't want that.
Yeah, correct. I don't want to flock. I think there's just better I also think there's better matchup and better pace spots to take advantage of and better pricing really to take advantage of. I think there's some pretty appealing values, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. And by the way, you were on live already, but Sharpe, it was 20 minutes ago, so you were already live. He is going to play. He's available to play tonight.
Okay.
All right, okay. So that definitely is going to impact you, like you mentioned, Clowney there. So, but yes, to kind of go back, like you're right. Like the Knicks are very difficult, right? The Knicks are another difficult team, and as much as like Brunson, as much as like Towns, like I don't know if I want to play these kind of players in cash games, right? Like not tonight, and very, very, very seldomly. So they're more GPP plays. I actually like Towns as a GPP. If I'm investing in anyone tonight, for the Knicks is probably going to be, Towns. I still don't prioritize him, or I'm still not prioritizing this evening. He's just someone that could land in my lineup depending on my build.
Yep, you'll see a few, because I already have my big board here. You'll see a few Knicks written up. But again, this is why you need to read the write-up a little bit too, because I warn you when it comes to some of these players, again, very slow pace. That's something Armando and I take very seriously. It's not a fantasy-friendly environment. You would normally think it would be, But because, again, the Knicks have been so volatile themselves, it's a hard game to trust, and it's an easy game to potentially avoid. But you will still see a few options in there. And now that Armando updated me regarding Sharp, Clowney kind of out of it. Sharp, though, off the bench becomes a little bit interesting. But let's pump the brakes, because the Knicks will have Mitchell Robinson likely active, and that'll take away any of Sharp's rebounding ability. So looking at a game that maybe we can trust a little bit more. Now, I was talking, Armando, about some of the top defensive teams over the last 10 games. The Charlotte Hornets are a dangerous team to attack. They play on the slower side, and they're actually a pretty decent defensive team. So the Cavs don't have Garland tonight. How are you handling some of the higher-priced Cavs options like Mobley and Mitchell?
Mobley, I feel like Mobley is one of the tougher players to trust, and his price has gone up. There's definitely a significant ceiling, and I'm very aware of that. He's not someone that's standing out to me as much as Mitchell on this team. Mitchell's someone I like quite a bit here. He's someone I've been kind of gravitating towards. I don't quite know if I'm going to get to him because I'm prioritizing one player tonight. He's very expensive. I think you're going to be prioritizing this. I'm hoping you're prioritizing the same player. But but yes, I definitely think you could play Mitchell. I think, in GPPs, I don't have an issue with him. He's not expected to be high owned. He's probably my favorite Cavs pay up between the two here. But not someone I am prioritizing. It's a fun slate. You mentioned some key factors there about the Hornets, that they're not, it's not a team you want to go out of your way and target every time, right? So but I do like the pace of this game for the Hornets side. Now, they get a pace up spot here.
Now with Garland out, that's going to add some usage to some players here. I mean, Porter, we know with Mitchell out there, Mitchell's going to be handling the rock a lot, so it's going to make Porter's ceiling limited. What about someone like Dyson, who's not the cheapest anymore, but so you're kind of investing a little bit in him, but we've seen the correlation that when someone's out, like a Mobley's out, he benefits. We've seen Garland be out. He's benefited. Is this someone else that, even though the pace is kind of working against them, the fact that Garland's out ups his value tonight?
Tyson's my favorite Cavs player this evening. Like when you're talking when you're talking pricing, when you're talking everything into consideration, he's my favorite player from Cleveland this evening. He's probably the one I'm going to be invested in, instead of Mitchell. So for me, I didn't want to make him a building block, I'll be honest, but he is a very strong option for me here for the Cavs. I like the price tag. I think 61 is fair. I don't think it's too, it's too much. And I definitely think he can exceed expectations there based on that price tag. Given the minutes he's going to play and the usage to increase, like you mentioned. Yeah,
and that's the big thing there. Just a balanced player should hit the 5 to 6x tonight return, which is what we're looking for, especially with our core plays. I mean, what we would want is an 8 to 9x return, but we'll take what we can get at this point, Armando. Looking at now, I'm starting to think now. You've got me trying to think about who the high price prioritized option for you is, because two names come to mind, and it's either Cade Cunningham or Jalen Brown. And I'm having trouble. I'm going to just say Cade, because that game is going to move at a very quick pace. Yeah, it's going to be Cade for me. I just, you mentioned it. Like, this is a two teams that play very fast, right? And then you look at the matchup, and just Pelicans give up a ton of production to the guard position. So Cade is someone that could, has triple-double upside. Like, I think he's going to be able to just do whatever he wants in this matchup. I think he's going to get a lot of shot opportunities, a lot of rebounding opportunities, a lot of assist opportunities. So for me, when you got a player with his talent and, his abilities in a matchup like this, I'm going to take that. I know that there's a double-digit spread. I don't mind, because you know what? Even if this does become a blowout, I still think he could get a ceiling, or at least close to his ceiling in this kind of matchup. So, and this is a game I want to be very invested in this evening. I've written up so many Pistons at this point, but the big thing is, now that Zion is questionable, it kind of makes me wonder, because with Cade's usage is protected. If they're doing well, it's not going to be because Jalen Duren is putting on a 2020 performance. It's because Cade is dominating. But then you've got Duren, who's a mid-7K player here. Again, double-digit spread, but we only have so many options here. I mean, Derek Queen has been decent, and if Zion's out, it takes a little bit of size out. They still have Missy back there. What do you think of Jalen Duren tonight?
I think he's a phenomenal tournament play. I think that there's a significance. Huh? Oh, I think might be on. I might be on the list. So, I think during this phenomenal tournament play, I think he's in a really good spot. You mentioned it. We know that the Pelicans struggle here. He's someone that I think can just have a monster game. The problem with him is if this game does blow out, I think he's probably the one that suffers the most here, and he's probably the one that won't get there. Whereas Cunningham will get there. I have a couple of Pistons in my core tonight, and he's not one of them. But I'll tell you this: like if Zion plays, he's someone that I don't mind adding to my Piston stacks here.
Yeah, Detroit is in a very good spot. I'll say this too. Even someone who I don't really rely on as much as Tobias Harris, I feel like has a chance to get us to that 5X tonight. Asar Thompson definitely has that chance too. So even Isaiah Stewart, those are a few guys I have right now, Armando, as value options here. So let me ask you this: of the guys that I just mentioned here, Stewart, Harris, and then, even in Asar Thompson, who would you say you trust the most between those three?
Tobias Harris is the one I feel the most comfortable with. He's a building block for me this evening. I just, the minutes are there. I think the pricing is very fair. He's been playing well since returning from his injury, right? So I really like him in this spot. I like this matchup for him. He checks off a lot, if not most, of boxes tonight.
Let's talk about Boston and Indiana, because this is one of those games that could get out of control. Boston, it's like Tatum's not even gone. That's how great this stuff. They have no size. I don't know. I watch this team, and it's an anomaly on how they are able to be as effective. They're just well coached. They've got maturity, and with the guys they do have, that's their excuse for size. They've got a lot of hustlers that have no problem giving that physical contact because they're not big offensive pieces. But when you look at this matchup here, and we've seen this before, these two teams face off. Are you into guys like, you mentioned Cade Cunningham already as a pay up. You like paying up for Jaylen Brown, or is this a spot where instead of paying up for maybe Jaylen Brown and Derek White, we go another direction and go with a Payton Pritchard and a Neemias Queta?
I like Queta a lot. So, I like the idea of paying up for Brown. If you can get enough, right, to get Cunningham and Brown, if we can get enough value here this evening, depending on news or whatnot, I won't talk anyone off of that. Jaylen Brown is in a great spot. You mentioned he's had a lot of success in this matchup here. So for me, I think it's a good opportunity to pay up, and you could pay up for both of them. Really, there's plenty of value, but I usually go more balanced. But Queta for me, man, he's the one I like here. He's probably the one that I'm going to be invested in this matchup, and go with a little bit of a lower price guy where I can go a little bit more balanced with my build. He's definitely going to be in my cheat sheet. He's a guy I view as a cash and GPP play, and I'm not saying I'm going to make him a core play, but I'll definitely be more invested in and higher than the field is. I definitely will be over the field as far as ownership is concerned here this evening with Queta.
I will say this about Queta. I've not decided my core plays just yet. He's there, though. He's right there because of the value that he brings. It's a major pace-up spot. Indiana does not defend the low block well. Pascal Siakam does yeoman's work at it, but he can't be alone. That's the problem with Pascal Siakam. So they need more help. And Indiana, I'll say this from the rebounding standpoint, because that's where Cade is going to be most deadly. Indiana is, if not the weakest, one of the weakest shooting teams in the NBA. And on top of that, they also give up a ton of rebounds too to opponents and aren't a great rebounding team. So that's going to benefit Boston. Armando, I've written up bet after bet this year of Derek White's rebounds, Payton Pritchard's rebounds, Jaylen Brown's rebounds. I think I did Queta one time in this matchup. I have been attacking Indiana relentlessly on the glass, especially with the guards who have the lower numbers. And for me, I'm liking a lot of the cheaper Celtics. Even a guy like Payton Pritchard, I think, is very much in play.
I agree 100%. I think Pritchard's a play. You can make a case for Hauser.
1,000%, man.
There are several guys here. This is why, like I said, there's certain values I'm targeting. This is that kind of value I'm targeting. Now that you said that, I'll tell you this: Cade is going to be a building block. I'm saying it now. He is. No, I'm serious because he was like borderline for me. The fact that you feel that strongly about him, and if you look at with the building blocks, we'll talk about it later on. But by building blocks, you have 6,100 left to spend, so you got plenty of money to be spending here. So yes, I like Pritchard. He's in the cheat sheet. Hauser's in the cheat sheet. Obviously Brown, Derek White, yes, are in the cheat sheet. But I like with you this evening. I prefer going to those mid-price Celtics player that are going to get that potential to 6-7x their salary here, even if that game gets, into a blowout situation, like you mentioned, very possible here.
Yeah, and for someone like Queta, what's great about him, he could do a lot in 25 minutes.
Of course.
And that's where everybody, and I'm not saying you, Armando, that's where everybody has to be careful. There are guys that are volume producers that don't need full minutes to be productive. Let me explain what we're dealing with tonight when it comes to the center position, Armando. Here's who I have. I'll let you guys in. Hell, I'll let you guys in. Please sign up for the MVP plan. I'll put the link up right here so you can see right now on my big board, and this is going to be sliced tremendously. Towns, Okonkwo, Duren, Claxton, Jared Allen are the above 6K guys. I can't trust any of them for full production outside of maybe Duren. Towns, I can't. Towns has played awful. You want to talk about the Knicks' struggles? It starts with Karl Anthony Towns. Okonkwo, hit or miss. Claxton, hit or miss. Jared Allen mainly misses, and then just when you think he can't take advantage in a tough matchup, he hits. The center position sucks tonight.
My two favorite centers on this slate are 50 or below 5,500. All right. And in fact, it's an early look, but there's another center I like just as much as Queta.
I know who you're going to say.
He's only going to play about 24 to 26 minutes.
I know who you're going to say.
He's producing 1.15 fantasy points per minute in a really good matchup against Atlanta coming off the bench. All right. You knew exactly what I was going to say.
Jock Landale. That's
yes.
But here's the thing, Armando, let me ask you this, though. Santi Aldama, unless I missed a note, Santi Aldama is questionable. If he plays, are you still as into Landale?
I'll be less interested. I still think he'll be viable, but it won't be as for me. I don't think it'll be as strong as an option, right? I think it's slight. It's like a slight, So I'll still make him viable, but yes, he's going to take a hit. I think.
Get ready to laugh. You know who I thought you were going to say? Because I'll tell you my other favorite center. So I'll say this: number 1 is Queta. Number 2 is Duren right now. Number 3. And I'm not making him a core play, but he'll be in a lineup. What about Jay Huff? I feel like he could get low ceiling, but I feel like he could get us there with the 5X.
I think like you said, I think he doesn't need a ton of minutes to get there, right? And right. I think he has the opportunity to get there. He is in I have him as a GPP. Where you have him as cash and GPP or just GPP?
No, just to me, just GPP.
Okay, because I have him as.
I'd rather tell people in cash, even if Aldama plays with the lightning speed in that game. I'd rather tell people in cash, go for Landale at that point.
Do you if Aldama plays, do you still think Landale could still get his 24 to 26 minutes?
I do.
Or do you think that goes down to 2022?
So here's what I think. I think that Atlanta they've been very good defensively. I think if he plays, I think there's a chance Atlanta could go up pretty big in this game. I do. I'm not, putting all my eggs in that basket, but that to me screams that he should be able to get his playing time. Okay. So again, it's hard for me to want to core Jock Landale at this point. But
correct.
But like with a Queta, where we've seen it, the proof in the matchup and the pace is outstanding. And the biggest thing of it and the biggest sell, he's a volume producer. That's where I can put my eggs in that basket tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Queta is the much stronger play.
So why don't you give me one other building block that you're looking at potentially tonight?
Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham is right now where I'm at. If you want one more, man, how do you feel about Brandon Miller tonight? We haven't spoken about him.
Okay, so yes, I'm in.
Okay.
He's been playing better. I didn't like, and I was kind of blaming the coaching for this. Brandon Miller can do a lot, but there are a lot of players, honestly. Knipple can do a lot. And this is why I think, Armando, that the Hornets may be better off long term the sooner they get rid of LaMelo Ball, because you've got all these guys on this team that could do way more, but LaMelo Ball is holding on to the ball, pun intended, for so long. But when Brandon Miller is able to get time with the ball, he could go one-on-one, he could go inside, he follows up his shots. When he first came back, he was hanging at the arc too much. Now we're starting to see him attack a little bit more. And so to answer your question the long roundabout way, yes, I'm into Brandon Miller tonight.
Yeah, he's another one that grades out very well for me. He's in the sheet. Yeah, he's someone that might end up in my core. I'm not saying he's going to be a core. I would stay with those three that I said, the Cade Cunningham, Tobias Harris, and Queta. Those are definitely going to be core plays as of right now. Go check out the sheet sheet for the fourth one.
Yes, there you go. We got it.
Discord, right?
A little bit. Yeah, trust me. And not only Armando will have the cheat sheet, but also I'll have the write-up too. So you'll see all the explanations. And we'll be in Discord tonight. And then we got Watch Along Wednesday. By the way, Greg, it's great to see you. And I'll say this, what's great about Fantasy Sports Daily, as soon as this episode is over, we post it right on the website in the Elite Plus section, fantasyguru.com. Elite Plus tab. You click on that, you see everything from the Armando Marsal podcast, which comes out bi-weekly. You see Fensty's Basketball Diaries, which comes out every week. And you see this show. You see One Man's Opinion too. And you see this show. We post the episodes in full. So you're never, ever, Greg, late for Fantasy Sports Daily. Armando, it's been awesome talking basketball with you. I'm glad that we're on the same page regarding some of the plays tonight. I'll tell you this, when it comes, I'm looking at my small forward big board right now. We've mentioned guys like Dyson. We both have him in as a value. Hauser, a possibility tonight with the pace-up spot. I feel like tonight we're going to be very much lockstep when all said and done, because Cade Cunningham, even though he's facing the Pelicans, it's going to move this game, and he'll be able to volume produce, I feel like. And with it being a 5-game main slate, it's very hard to find other trustworthy options besides him and Brown. And I'd rather spend a little bit extra to pay for Cade.
Yeah, I think that's the key takeaway, right? We have only 5 games to choose from. And like I said at the beginning of the show, 3 of them have double-digit spreads. So there's blowout, potential in multiple areas. Why not take a player who arguably has the highest ceiling on this slate, right? And who arguably is in one of the better spots on this slate. And if that game turns into a blowout, there's a very high chance that it is because of him, like you've mentioned several times. So yeah, that's kind of the thought process when it comes to someone like Cade Cunningham. I think Brown is a very close second. Like for me, he's a very close second. And the Jalen Brunsons of the world, what the difference there between them is just the game environment is not as appealing, right? It's a slower pace. Like in order for him to hit his ceiling, you just need a lot to go right. Whereas these other players are in good positions, in good game environments, in good, game pace. So for me, that's kind of why I'm leaning Cunningham today. But to me, he's a priority. You look at the slate, and maybe I'm biased here, but he stands apart a lot by a wide margin from everyone else, in my opinion.
Well, we're trying. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's either go and attack Jaren Jackson Jr. with Jalen Johnson, who could still be victor, but that's a tough matchup.
Yeah,
that is a tough matchup. Memphis isn't a walkover. They play decent defense, and I know they play fast and it's appealing. But up front, and especially if Aldama's in, you can either go that way or you go the Cade Cunningham way, which to me has a more direct path to getting us that 5X, even at his high price point too. And if you fade him, it's very risky in this matchup because we've seen New Orleans bring that offense at times too. And if they can hang within 2022 by the fourth quarter, you're getting a lot of those Detroit starters for half the quarter. At Armando_Marsal, Marsal on X. Make sure you catch the Armando Marsal podcast. I'm at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports. We will see all of you a little bit later on in our Discord to help build tonight. We'll talk strategies, we'll talk plays, and then it's Watch Along Wednesday. For Armando, I'm Fensty. Thank you all for hanging out on Fantasy Sports Daily. Ray Flowers back tomorrow. Same time, same place, same channel, right here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by Fantasy Guru.